and looking forward to now a session with just an amazing institution, The Ohio State University, the land grant school in Columbus, Ohio. That is, if you haven't visited it, I would highly recommend a visit to the campus. Having been on hundreds of campuses, literally all over the world, I'm not kidding. I can tell you, and just about every campus in New England, that the Ohio State University campus is just spectacular. It's a tremendous university. It's a tremendous campus, and the ovals, the traditions, and the people. You can't find friendlier people than people in Ohio. So it's great to have you here, Shawnte, and really appreciate you joining us today. And just let's start off with a little bit about your journey, where you started, and how you got to where you are now, and what you do at the Ohio State University.
Well, I'm so happy to be back again, Stan. And so my background is in health education and promotion. I'm from North Carolina, and I started my undergraduate education at East Carolina University. And that's also where I started my career as a health educator. And I decided to make that my career path because I was a peer educator. I was one of those students who decided to do peer-to-peer health education and promotion. And I decided to make it my pathway thanks to an amazing group of mentors who were health educators on campus. And they all look like me. And I with this being about health equity, I'm going to talk a lot about making sure you have mentors and those who mentor and see the amazing opportunities that you can possess even before you see them yourselves, especially for me as a first-generation college student. And so for 10 years, I worked at East Carolina University and then at UNC Charlotte as a health educator. And then I worked my way up as a director at IPUI in Indianapolis as their first director over health promotion. And then at that time, they started creating what we have now, our version of our chief health and wellness officers in higher education. And I set my eyes and my prize on being one of the first health and wellness officers in higher education that was African-American woman. And so I'm the first number 2 health and wellness associate vice president with a prevention background who is African-American. And so I was the first at Central Washington University. And now I'm here at The Ohio State University, again, in the first AVP position here. And I have an amazing opportunity to work alongside 4 amazing directors and a program manager, as I also have the oversight over employee wellness for student life. And so I've been here almost at 2 years in January, and this has been my life's work. This is year 17 for me, and it has been an amazing journey. And I'm a family of educators and healthcare practitioners, and so I just didn't have the stomach to go into the clinical side, and so I decided to be a practitioner on the education and health side.
That's an incredible journey, and again, just an incredible legacy of extraordinary institutions, and your background too, and your family must be really proud of everything you're doing, just given the success that you're having and everything you've earned. And I can't agree with you more on just the importance of paying it forward. It sounds like you had tremendous mentors, and now you're here today with us, sparing some of your time out of your crazy busy schedule, helping paying it forward, and certainly the audience here today, and then obviously the folks that'll pick it up on YouTube and our YouTube channel later, being able to give them the advice that they need to be successful, particularly in this area, this really important area of social determinants of health and public health in our society today. And obviously we're really talking a lot about education. Your educational background is really impressive, and if you could, obviously it would be wonderful to hear some of the backgrounds and some of the data that you've seen about whether or not education is a component of social determinants of health, and if so, how important is it, and how effective is it?
Absolutely. Education is one of the biggest social determinants of health for a variety of reasons. And so just to kind of level set, we have education access and quality as one component of social determinants of health, but we also have neighborhood and built environments, economic stability, healthcare access and quality, and social and community context. And within higher education, we can actually touch on each of those components of social determinants of health. And that's what makes us quite unique, because higher education is a community within itself. And for many years, we've called higher education the great equalizer. And what we saw during and post-COVID is one key component, which is the eradication of many institutions, taking away many of the tests, the qualifiers, the quantifiers that many students had to take, the SAT, the ACT, to come into institutions of higher education, which again, disproportionately impacted our students of color, our students of low SES, and being here at Ohio State as a land-grant institution, that impacted many of our students who from Appalachia, many of our students from low SES, and many of our students of color, and then many of our students who are DACA students. And so being able to see the outcome of COVID and seeing how many institutions no longer require those standardized testing, we see how higher education is starting to really become more of an equalizer. We see that the bachelor's degree still carries some weight, not as much as it used to, so more of a master's degree. We've seen some jobs no longer require a master's degree, so we're seeing some novice changes at some companies, but still, yes, it is a huge component of social determinants of health. But more so, I want to emphasize one big thing. No matter when someone decides to get some form of an associate's, bachelor's, or master's degree, any point of their time of life, it does improve their quality of life, improve their health and wellness. And so that's what the data says. And so I wanted to emphasize that, because sometimes people think it's only for those who come through the traditional time of post K through 12 coming right into higher education, and that's not true. Any point of time a person decides to matriculate at an institution of higher education, technical school, community college, or four-year institution, it does improve their quality of life, their health and well-being overall, because institutions touch on each of those social determinants of health in a variety of ways.
That's just really insightful, and really appreciate the depth of what your understanding of this too. This is incredible. And so when you're looking through education as a cornerstone of public health, and you're looking at how all the digital technologies that are coming out, sometimes helping people and sometimes not. We've seen a lot of digital technology have an adverse effect on public health. And again, those studies are widely published and can be found on Google Scholar. The idea here is that, what are you seeing that's actually being adopted, it's actually working around digital technologies, improving educational, not just enrollment, but also success. I coach a lot of students, again, pro bono, for free, just helping them get into college or helping them get into grad school once they're at Columbia or wherever, whether it's an MD degree or MPH or MBA. And, some of those folks are first generation learners, first generation graduate students, undergraduate students. And so there's a lot of help needed there. What kind of digital technologies are you seeing? And this will help me too, just in my coaching and my paying it forward. What kind of digital technologies are you seeing be most effective in helping folks who are either first generation bachelor's degree or grad students, attain that and really enroll and be successful once they're enrolled in those institutions? Because a lot of folks that are first generation, they'll enroll, but the dropout rates are much higher than second or third generation undergraduate and graduate students. So what kind of digital technologies are we seeing that are effective there?
I think it's going to be twofold, really, Stan. I think some institutions have some very high touch first generation student success programs. I just had a chance to meet with Kia McKinney, one of the director here at Ohio State yesterday, to hear about our student success programs. And I'm highly impressed. And it actually, when she had a chance to walk me through it, I was like, that's public health. Just because we use different terms doesn't mean it's not the same thing. And so I think that's one thing I want to touch on, is that just because in different sectors of the academic side and the student affairs, student life side, just because we use different terms doesn't mean we're still not touching on the same thing. And so they're still using technology. They're still using a lot of peer-to-peer support. And I'm amazed to see how they're using technology by putting things within Canvas that is very easy for students to assess the resources. They're putting things like, we have a wellness app here where students can easily find some of the resources. And so that's just an easy win that many institutions are doing. I think about some of the EAB put out a white paper on best practices of having a basic needs center. And many of those campuses across the country have had just a resource site where students can easily find all the resources. And so I think that's the top thing, is having a one-stop shop page of how students can find the resources easily, without having to go all over their campuses, talk to 50 million people to find what they need. So I think that's the first thing. The other thing for students who actually need accommodations, there's some pros and cons. I want to talk about the things that we have now within accommodations, with the pens that can record, the tablets that many campuses or iPads that they give out when students arrive that I didn't have coming to campus. I remember having a word pad and having to bring paper. And now that faculty are embracing hybrid options within the classroom, and so and recording their lectures, I think that is a sign of using technology for the benefit of all students. That's the equity that it has been proven to be beneficial, not just because of COVID, but you never know why a student may have to miss class. And so being able to have that access to the recording is a benefit, even if it's for studying, and being able to go back and watch the recording as they prep for midterms or for studying for a test. I think about the other side of the accommodations, where technology and being able to have access to medical providers who can do the assessments, and how many communities of color and many low SES students, where their parents may have had ADD, ADHD themselves and never were tested, and lack the awareness to say, my child may need some extra assistance, may not have any health insurance, so, or have a guidance counselor or a teacher who doesn't label them as a behavioral problem or a disruptive student, but says, hey, I think you need some extra assistance, and can get them into getting psychological testing. Because what we see now in higher education is that they're now just trying to get tested. And the wait list on the campus or in their community is astronomical. And so, or they don't have insurance for the testing, and they can range from $1,500 to $5,000 for testing. And so I think technology is a place that can help fill that gap on how can we do testing in a much more seamless way. So I think about keeping up with the telehealth, the teletherapy, the telecoaching, to encompass some of the psychological testing to assist students who didn't have access when they were in K through 12, not necessarily because they didn't know they needed assistance, but because of, we know that there's some environmental, sociocultural influences that, when we go to my next question, talk about DEI, that there are some clinicians who have lacked the training and awareness. And the previous speakers talked about the need for education, unconscious bias training, to be aware of how to appropriately reach out to populations to assist them, and to bring in those families where culturally that diagnosis may be very new or not in my family. This is not something that we are aware of, and medication may not be something embraced. And so I think technology can be encompassed in a variety of ways. And I think the last thing with technology, Stan, is how we use technology in higher education to bring in the entire family in this process in higher education, because it's not just for the students, it's for the family and support persons in this process.
It's fantastic. No, I love it. And you're absolutely right. It is, you know, we heard about the book, It Takes a Village to Raise a Child. It really takes a family to help bring that in with a full-blown educational background, and making sure that folks can reach their highest levels of education. And again, no matter what it is, it doesn't have to be liberal arts. It doesn't have to be business. It could be a technical trade. It could be, that kind of, some of the happiest people I know are plumbers and landscapers and things like that. We just need folks to have the highest level of education that they can possibly receive to be successful in what they want to do, either as a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, or an entrepreneur, or a business person, small business, whatever it might be. And we've got about a minute left. Shawnte, I would just love to understand, you were just mentioning this a moment ago about how this works within DEI, and maybe you could just touch on that for a minute before we sign off here.
I mean, my last notes, and I talked about it the last time I was here, is how we do on the academic side and in our hiring practices within the in the job force is our recruitment retention practices of faculty and staff and the full-time employees, which leads to more representation of serving our diverse populations. It includes more diversity in research and updating coursework and capstones and internships and mentoring opportunities. And more importantly, making sure we have faculty who do the research and staff, but also faculty who do practice, such as myself. I am faculty, but I'm also a clinical faculty of practice. And so we have to have both levels who can bring both aspects to the classroom, so that way we can make sure we replace ourselves and provide actionable opportunities of what diversity, equity, and inclusion looks like in research and practice. So when there are clinical trials, we can make sure we walk through and acknowledge when there has been inequity in populations of differently able in communities of color and low SES. We can acknowledge it, and then we can move forward to try to bring those communities back and acknowledge why we need them to be participants, so they can be represented and make sure that medications and things can be beneficial for our communities. And so that's how I would end it, because we all have to be a part of this process, but it starts with acknowledging where we went wrong, and so that we can move forward.
That's brilliant. And certainly really appreciate your time today. Shawnte, thank you very much, and enjoy the Ohio State University's campus and all of its wonderful opportunities that it provides. And again, we'll be rooting for at least one of the CFP top 4 teams to lose this weekend, so that the Buckeyes get their chance to get back in there and beat that team from the North. So thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity. Have a great day.
Take care.